Hey, you guys. Oh, I missed you so much. Um, real quickly, anybody who entered the giveaway, if you haven't watched the results video, it was the one like right before this one, I believe. Go check it out and see if your name was called. I did it like somewhere towards the middle of the video. So, but I didn't want to put giveaway results in the title of the video. I said results. So anyway, I just don't like to do that because a lot of people sort of just scroll through YouTube searching up giveaway to enter giveaways, and I just didn't want to deal with that. So I sort of like hid it in my other videos. So anyway, go check that out. If you have not emailed me, if I did call your name, then send me an email with your address. So, and your like real name. Anyway, so I'm still working on book covers. I have been like expanding thinner spined books. Oh my God. And I've got a ton of them. So these are just journal covers that I think I'm not obviously, well, you guys probably think I would do all of these all at once, but I just wanted to have covers sort of prepped that I can work on when it comes time, to just have them done. And then I can just put them in a box and thumb through them when I feel like making a journal. So anyway, so I've done a whole bunch where I was expanding the spine to make it a little bit wider. I haven't done the fabric on all of them because I'm not 100% sure I want to do that on all of them. But, anyway, so I just I did do that in a video showing you sort of what I think I might be doing with them. And then I'm gonna also do some stitching on these. So I'll show that to you guys in this video also. But I have a whole bunch of books where I just had another way that I wanted to do this. Instead of leaving this attached on the front part of the cover, I want to detach it on both sides. And then what I've been trying to do is actually wrap this little part around the spine. So I'll show you what I mean. I have a couple more books that I want to gut also. And anyway, so again, I'm working with a lot of these books where they've got that binding that goes straight through the whole book block. And just a quick little reminder about how I got these books. If you don't know what I mean, I'm talking about the books where you can see that they're stitched all the way through the book block. So I sort of just open it up somewhere in the center and then cut through that string that runs, anyway, you know what I mean. And then I just kind of pop this off and then sort of pop that off, right? Sometimes it's easier to just pop this off than others, but if it doesn't come off easily, the reason that this is having a hard time coming off is because of the staples that are in here. So I just fold this all the way back, and then I can just cut through the fabric where those staples are still attached to the fabric that's on there's like this book tape that staple is actually put through, Anyway, so, oh darn it, I see, and I was in a rush, so I accidentally cut that part. But it's not a huge deal because I'm going to cut both sides off. Always, like I've said a million times, use a brand new blade when you start doing this, because it definitely makes the job easier. Okay, so that's that. And that little hole isn't a huge deal, but I'm sort of mad about it right now, but we'll pretend like it didn't happen. Anyway, so you've got your two covers. Now, some of these where the books are, you know, kind of grungy, and if they look like they have something that's actually spilled on them, or some kind of, you know, grunge that shouldn't, it's not just age. It you know, if it looks like something spilled on it and then dried on the book, then I will take a little wipe. So these are the alcohol wipes. I like to use the alcohol wipes when I'm doing this, just because baby wipes have a tendency to wet the cover too much, and then they start warping and just getting kind of weird. So I just like to use a little alcohol wipe just to get the surface dirt off. And it's good to do that. I should have mentioned this before on other videos, but it's good to do that before you're gluing onto the side of the cover, because if there's any kind of oil or anything like that, it just makes it harder for the glue to stick. Anyway, so here's what we're gonna do. I cut some strips of craft paper, and then I also used some, this is masking paper you can get at like Home Depot or places like that sell painting supplies, like, you know, house paint and stuff, and it comes on a roll like that. It's really cool. It's really nice paper. I got some in some Happy Mail recently, and it reminded me that I had a bunch of that. So anyway, so this is just like thin craft paper. It's not, it's like packing paper, basically. So like if you get boxes from Amazon or someplace like that, and it's got those, you know, that packing paper all scrunched up in there, that stuff works great. So, I mean, if you want to iron it, you can iron it, but, you know, you don't really need to. Anyway, so here's what I'm doing. I'm going to, I want this to be kind of in the center of the spine. Where's my glue? Here it is. Oh, first thing, sorry guys, I just woke up. Anyway, and then I've got a bunch of, these are like the backing off of different pads of paper, like grid paper and stuff like that, but they're like really thin. So I'm just going to use 2 of them. And I'm making these spines actually 2 inches wide. On the other ones, I was going 1.5 inches, but I decided I wanted to go a little bit wider on some of my journals. So I went ahead and did 2 inches. So anyway, I'm just measuring that to length. And then I just take the other one right up next to it and cut that off. And since this is so thin, I can just cut it with scissors. Okay, so then you want to use a piece of craft paper that's at least 1 inch wider, or at least like 1/2 inch, I guess, wider than your spine piece. This one is actually a little bit too thin. Hold on. Yeah, this one's better. Okay, so because we want there to be like right around 1/2 inch on each side of the chipboard. Okay, so, and you know, I've done lots of different journal covers, lots of different ways, and I'm always trying to find an easier way to do them where I feel like they're still going to be really sturdy and, you know, stand up to a lot of wear and tear. And I think that this is going to work really well. So basically I'm just gluing, I'm just spreading out some, this is PVA glue all over this whole piece using a brush. And this glue is nice because it's flexible when it dries. Okay, so I'm just going to take one of these and I'm just eyeballing, giving myself a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom, about even. You don't have to measure it or anything. And then take a little bit more glue so I can glue those two pieces together. Okay. And then this one goes on top. So if you have thicker chipboard, then obviously you don't need to do this, but since I just have this thinner stuff that I want to use up, that's what I'm doing. Okay, and then you want to make sure that your cover is the right side up. I have glued these together before and they were upside down and it was upsetting. Anyway, so I'm basically just spacing the covers right about, I guess it would be maybe 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Let's see. I really am just eyeballing it, but yeah, it's right about 1/8 of an inch. Okay. From the chipboard. So then this one the same. And I didn't bother with sanding the inside edges of these. A lot of times I do that, but I don't know. To save time, I just decided to skip it. Anyway, and then I'm just going to fold this little piece over. Like that. And then I'll just use my baby wipe and kind of smush it down in there a little bit. And I sort of want to get this paper damp a little bit. Okay, let me clean my board a little bit. Okay. Basically, for that spacing, you just want to be able to close your book all the way. You know, if it's too close, then you won't be able to shut the book and you run the risk of tearing this paper. So you do need that gap right there. Okay, and then see if I can find another piece of craft paper that's the same width. There we go. Okay. So then I'm just going to line this up on the, just about a hair above the bottom of the cover. And then I'm going to fold this down, giving myself about the same on the top. Cut that off. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that I had that cut to size. So then I'm going to take this piece that is the spine, or that was on the spine, and I'm trying to preserve these little flaps that, you know, that are usually just kind of folded in like that. So making sure that it's upright again. Just going to take it and fold it right over the chipboard there. Okay. I'm not gluing it down yet. And I want to try to make sure that it's also centered where I want it on the spine. Okay. And then I'm going to set it down with that flap underneath to just kind of, you know, anchor it. Try not to move it at this point. And then I'm just going to add some glue here. And I'm not worrying about taking off all of this excess paper that's on there. It's not hurting anything, and it's not going to prevent this from gluing or anything like that. So I'm just leaving it on there. So I want to open that up. I want to flip up this other piece that's at the bottom. Stick this down. Wipe off my excess glue. And then I can, whoops, big glue right there. Okay. Now I can glue these down. Okay. Then I'm going to cover this whole thing with glue again. Lots of glue. And I'm making sure that I get glue down into that gap with the brush. Okay. Then just kind of tap this down in the center. I'm trying to make sure that it's lining up with that paper, with that part that's folded over. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and very gently start working this paper down into that groove. Kind of pressing it on the top and bottom pretty hard just to I also sometimes will take the rounded part of this bone folder and, you know, really press it down. Or if you have one of these, this kind of bone folder, they work really nice for this. Okay. Get this, see, I ripped it. I put a little hole in it with the bone folder right there. It's because this has gotten slightly sharp over time. So kind of got to be careful. You really don't want it glued down on the edges yet. You want it to be able to sort of bend up like that when you're doing this part. Okay. And then just start working that down. Get that nice and flat. Wiping off the excess glue with my baby wipe. Okay. So then we've got that piece that came off of the spine attached onto the spine on the outside again. And my book is, the spine is reinforced. It's nice and sturdy and stiff now. And the end, you know, I've got 2 layers of paper, actually 3 layers at the bottom and the top that are, you know, holding this together. So if you feel like that's not enough, like if you feel like, you know, the paper that's holding this together in those grooves isn't enough, then, you know, you can just add another layer of paper using glue, you know. But I'm pretty happy with it. Like I don't feel like it needs anything more than that. So yeah, like if you were using the if you were using this paper to do this spine like this, then you might want to add another layer of paper because it's considerably thinner. So Anyway, so that's basically what I'm doing. And I'm just working my way through my stack of covers and, you know, just preserving these spines. And the whole point to this really is to reinforce the spine and make it stiff and stronger and a little bit wider than what it already is. Okay, so that's that. And so when I started doing these other ones where I was trying to, like, the only goal was to make the spine wider, I realized that it's actually a pretty good way to rebuild spines on any book where, you know, the spine is not in really good shape. Because, you know, once you gut a book and you take out the book block, a lot of times it's super flimsy. Like it's just really not sturdy, and it's kind of a pain cutting a piece of chipboard, you know, that fits in this spine section, and then getting that all glued together, and then you know, using fabric and stuff, which I do that, but I just think that it's easier to do it like this and just cut both sides off, put your chipboard in, glue your spine back onto that, and then, you know, just cover it with some craft paper. And that glue is nice and flexible, and, you know, these covers are really sturdy. They're not going anywhere. So, okay, now let me grab the sewing machine and I'll just kind of show you guys how I am planning to do the stitching on these. So I am trying to match my thread to the cover that I'm working on. I mean, I shouldn't say match it, but I'm trying to make it so that, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I'm using some green, some red, some brown, and then I also have some black thread. And just, I don't know, just depending on the color of the cover, I'm changing my thread out. So anyway, so for this one, I'm just going to use the black. This book, I better not do this one because this book didn't have the spine. It just had the front and back cover. So I'm not going to do that one with you guys. Let's do this one. So this is the Ross's Business English. And I think the black thread will look nice with this because it has the black writing on it. So, but you see how, you know, this is pretty thin, right? That paper is pretty thin right along the spine there. And I did actually do 2 layers of paper on the inside of this one. Just because I had a little bit of a tear right there. So anyway, so I'm going to stitch this one. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go all the way around the border with a straight stitch. So people, I know somebody's going to ask, gosh, this is so dusty. A lot of people are going to ask what kind of needle I'm using and that kind of thing. It's just, you know, honestly, it's just here, I'll show you. Reach. There's my phone. Knocking stuff over. Okay. It's just a Singer yellow band needle. Premium ballpoint. Well, this one, no. These are the ballpoint ones. I'm not using the ballpoint ones. There it is. Hold on. Okay. This is what I'm using. It's the premium regular point red band needles, size 90-14 for medium weight woven fabrics on Singer and other household machines. Anyway, so that's the needle that I'm using. Okay. So just a regular kind of medium weight needle. And the sewing machine I'm using is my Singer heavy duty machine. My brother machine is still kind of it's in timeout. So anyway, But this machine seems to do pretty well with stitching through books, through book covers. A lot of times I use one of my really old machines, one of the vintage machines, to do this, but I want to do a zigzag stitch, and neither of those machines do a zigzag, and the other vintage machine that I have is torn in pieces also, so the one that does do zigzag, and I just haven't gotten it put back together yet. Anyway, so I'm using this one. I have a number of sewing machines. Okay, so for stitching through book covers, go slow. Like, you don't need to rush it. Sometimes you'll need to give it a hand. Like, you'll need to actually turn the crank, you know. Sorry, I'm cleaning up something that spilled on my sewing machine. I keep it on the floor right next to me, so it just gets super dusty. Anyway, sometimes you need to give it some help by turning the wheel, you know. So if you have a foot pedal, that's another reason that I like to use this machine for doing this, is that the kind that has the push button, sometimes they have a hard time going through the book board, and it'll just like error out, and it'll just basically shut off. So this one I can sort of force it a little bit. Anyway, so, you know, kind of, actually, I like to start somewhere around here in the middle of the spine. So line up your needle where you want it to stitch, okay? And then slowly, you know, add some power, and see it's kind of struggling a little bit. So I'm just going to turn it manually. And once you get it going, it doesn't usually have much trouble. But sometimes you do have to give it a little bit of a kick with turning the wheel yourself. So the crank, or whatever it's called. So this is why I'm not using any tape on these covers, is because the sewing machine just doesn't like it. So the corner of the book got kind of stuck in the feed dogs right there. So whenever you hear it stalling, just, you know, don't just press the pedal harder. You want to turn it and get it going, because then the momentum of the machine will kind of keep it going. You know what I mean? Once it gets going and you get it actually poking through, then the momentum of each stitch kind of keeps it going. It's hard to explain, but okay, so I'm just stitching all the way around the edges. No, came unthreaded. That does happen more frequently when I'm stitching on the book covers, especially if it kind of struggles a little bit. It will break the thread easier. So just be patient. You might have to thread your machine a couple different times. Okay. Where did it stop? There it is. Okay. So when that happens, I like to sort of start back about an inch from where the thread broke, and just kind of go over that section again. I'm trying not to go too fast. Okay. And then I'm going to stitch down. I'm going to stitch down on either side of the spine piece that I glued on, and then I'm also going to stitch right along this paper on the front, but I'm going to do that with a zigzag. So I'm going to start with the front. Okay, so I want to do a relatively kind of medium length stitch. Like I'm setting this on a 2, and then I want the width like right around 4. I don't want it to be a super wide zigzag. And I don't worry about back stitching. I just keep going. Okay, and then so if the book cover won't fit perfectly flat under your machine, like if the bed of your machine is not wide enough, then sometimes you can't do this. Like that's just the way it is. But sometimes just repositioning the book cover, then you can actually reach certain places that you might not think you can. Anyway, so but what I do on this is I just bend. I'm actually lifting the cover that's on the inside part of the machine up a little bit, and that gives me a little bit more room inside there. So, but I have to reach over to put the foot down. So then I'm just stitching right along. And the other thing is that, some book covers are simply just too thick to do this, unless you have like an industrial machine. So, but honestly, any of the sewing machines that I have can go through a book cover, like especially one of these old ones, because the book board just isn't that thick. It's not that dense either. But you do want to make sure that your glue is dry before you start stitching, because that your sewing machine won't like. Okay, and one more. And I did backstitch on that just because. Okay. So that's how they look. Okay. This book didn't have any writing on the spine here, but I have some ideas of some things that I want to do on some of these book spines. And so that's okay. It doesn't bother me that there's no writing or anything on there, because I have there's some cool things I'm thinking about. Using some book plates maybe, and doing a little bit of collage on these covers. These book plates from Amazon get bent pretty easily, but I was thinking that it would be kind of cool to use some of these on these covers. So they're a little bit too wide to go that direction, I think. I don't know. This one might actually work going, horizontally on there. But anyway, so that's another thing to do. But have any of you guys bought these book plates, these Tim Holtz book plates, and were you annoyed that there's no hole in them? There's no hole to actually attach them to anything. It's so annoying. It's like, anyway, I know you could glue them onto something, but that doesn't seem like it's going to be very sturdy on a book. Like, why wouldn't he put holes in these? I don't. Anyway, so I'm thinking about getting the Dremel out and actually drilling out those circles. Those little, there's little like bumps there where it's supposed to look like a rivet, but I don't know. I don't understand it. I guess a lot of the stuff that he makes is not intended to be used. Like most of the things that, I don't know, that like they're just for like display pieces or something. But that just, I don't know, that kind of irked me that those didn't have holes. Just saying. Okay, I'm not going to just sit here and complain about Tim Holtz. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that I want to do some cool stuff on the spines of some of these. So that's that. I do have plans to do another video maybe today. I got some new stamps from Signet Stamps, some new stamps. And I also have a new kit from Louise that I wanted to show you guys because she has a new sewing kit that she's going to have in her Etsy shop. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, Signet Stamps is a shop on Etsy where I buy my label stamps. And they've made a couple other stamps that I had requested. And so I want to show those to you guys. And then Louise is also another shop on Etsy where she's based in France, and she does a lot of like ephemera and things like that, French papers and books and, you know, ledgers and things like that. So she and I have kind of been collaborating on ideas for kits. And so she sent me one that, you know, she's going to have in her shop. So I want to show that to you guys also. I just have a couple questions for her before I show you. So, but she's not even, she might be awake before I'm ready to do that video. And then also a little happy mail I wanted to show you. So, okay, so that is that. And, you know, I just really wanted you guys to see how I do the stitching on the sewing machine and how I plan to do the rest of these book covers so that I can start cranking out some more journals and preserving these beautiful spines and also making the journal a little bit more rigid. You know, I love having a soft spine on my journals. You know, I love the way that feels in your hands and stuff, but I also want them to be more kind of like sturdy too. So anyway, all right. Any questions, leave it in the comments, or you can always send me an email, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. All right. I love you guys. Okay. Bye for now.